All right, so first, can you tell viewers that don't know anything about you a little bit about you and also what Hartt does?
Sure. My organization, Hartt, it really specializes in rescuing animals that nobody else can actually catch. We're based primarily in the Phoenix, Arizona area. We do reach a little bit into the state of Arizona, but my background is I've been in animal welfare for more than 20 years. I've served on a number of boards of nonprofits. At one point, I was the CEO of Arizona Humane Society, which at the time was one of the 5 largest humane organizations in the United States. So my passion for animals definitely runs deep.
So when did you find out that helping animals was your calling? Was it early in life? Did you always have that passion to helping
Yeah, I mean,
animals?
I had a dog growing up. My parents weren't really into animals, so getting a dog out of them was kind of tough. But finally, I did have a dog, and I think my love of animals actually came from my father, who did grow up in Pennsylvania, didn't have really a lot of pets, but always found other pets in the neighborhood to love and care for. So I think he passed on that compassion for animals to me. And so as I grew up, obviously I wanted my own pets, started adopting animals, and then realized I wanted to have a bigger impact than just helping the animals under my own roof, and wanted to do something out in the community as well.
You spoke about trapping animals. So are we basically talking mostly about cats and dogs? Are we talking about any kind of animal that basically needs some sort of welfare in general?
Yeah, great question. So our focus is dogs. However, we also assist domesticated cats. And so really our focus is twofold. One is helping families who have lost their pet, whether it be a cat or a dog, and they don't know how to get their pet back. So that's our number one focus, is helping families with their pet to get them back into the household. And the second focus is helping animals who are stray, who need help, primarily focusing on those who are injured or ill and really need our help. We are an all volunteer organization, so we have no staff. So we all do this nights and weekends after our day jobs are over, after our families are cared for. And so we try to help as many as we can. And we do focus on those animals who are really shy, very skittish, have low self-confidence, who, for example, those of you that are watching, normally you could go out with a leash and a bag of hot dogs and possibly get a stray to come to you. If you can do that, please help us. That's great. But we are the ones who are called in when that doesn't work.
Talk about, and these animals who, they don't understand English when, they may know some words, but how do you get them to trust you when they may have been abused or, kind of ran away from home in general because of that sort of aspect, or just been dropped off and
Yeah.
because their, family didn't want them anymore?
Sure, sure. So I think there are 2 different scenarios there. The lost pets, a lot of them are loved pets. People
Mhm.
think that it's okay to let them off in the woods to go for a stroll, and then they see the squirrel you talk about, then they're gone and they won't come back. Those dogs are a little bit easier slightly to coax back because they have a history of trusting people. Sometimes though, after about 48 hours, they won't even come to their loved family members. So our services still end up being needed. Those who are on the street who we don't know their history, they could have been abused or abandoned, or they might have been lost by a loved family member 2 years ago, and they've been out so long that they've forgotten what it feels like to be loved and to trust a human. And so sometimes we can gain their trust by just kind of being patient. The number one thing I would say is, if you see a stray or your own dog and your pet won't come to you or the animal won't come to you, never chase them. You can never, no matter how fast you are, you can't outrun a stray. Everybody thinks they can, but you can't. Actually, the best thing is, if you see a stray and they're starting to run away from you, is sit down, face away from them, and just start talking softly, and it will usually stop them in their tracks. If you jump back up and start pursuing them, they're just going to run faster. A lot of them will run into a car, and the outcome will be tragic. So when we go on scene, if the dog's in the vicinity or the cat, we'll sit down and try to coax them to us with treats, just calm body language, not really facing them. And then obviously, if we can get them within reach where they come up, we start petting them and then gently put a leash on them. But again, those are the ones that are easier. We call that shy dog technique, where we sit and allow them to come to us rather than us coming to them. Most of the time, our humane traps and our specialized equipment are needed to recover these animals.
What do you feel like you service more? Strays in general, finding strays, or do you feel like it's more of people that have lost pets?
Yeah, it probably when we started about 3 years ago, it was probably 80% strays. And
Hmm.
now it's probably a good 50-50 because now people realize, like, gosh, I can't get my own dog or cat to come back to me. What do I do? And they honestly are seeking that help. So it's probably about 50-50 right now.
Where do you find a lot of these strays in Phoenix
Uh,
usually?
Everywhere. I think certainly strays are everywhere. They're in every community.
Hmm.
They're sometimes more prevalent in communities, for example, that have culturally a more of a tolerance of outdoor dogs that run free. There's some tie to sometimes socioeconomic background, or areas where English isn't the predominant language, where they're accustomed to allowing their dog off leash, out of their house, out of their yard. But it can be anywhere. Again, anybody can lose their pet anywhere. I think we do see that there are more visible strays in the warmer climate states because of obviously the fact that they're not hunkered down really cold. Overpopulation is more common because it's easier to breed, etc., when the climates are warm.
Like I said, I'm in Orlando, you're in Phoenix. These are two real extremely hot states now, and even in the summer as it keeps going on. It's even hot in the winter in these places. How do these dogs survive in that kind of heat?
Right. Now it's hot. It's hot for us people too. Boy, let me
Yeah.
tell you, we hate going out and in the summer months. We like to have our air conditioning in our swimming pools, which are common here. But the dogs obviously don't have either if they're out and about. So they have amazing survivability. We have people that will lose an 8-pound Yorkie in the desert in Phoenix, and after a day they'll write that dog off, assuming that dog is dead. And we say, "Oh no, please don't give up." We find these dogs months after the fact. They figure out how to find shade. If it's 115 out, maybe in the shade it's 95. It's not comfortable, but it's not deadly. The key is they have to get to water. And obviously in the desert in the Phoenix area, you're relying on man-made sources of water. Lakes and streams are not as common in our community. They are in certain areas, but not in the metropolitan areas. A lot of our stray dogs, we think, find feeding stations that are left by community cat caregivers or feral cat caregivers, where they put water and food out for cats, and our dogs find it. Sometimes they use puddles. Sometimes they use somebody's, hosing off their driveway, and they find the drippings from that. They have irrigation drip systems they can drink out of. Not ideal, but it does allow them to survive. And food, they can sadly find almost anything. Not usually healthy stuff, but it's amazing what they can make food out of.
So how are you dealing with the pandemic? Because it's hit a lot of people hard.
Sure. I mean, definitely our organization has seen a drop in donations, which is really, really hard because we, again, have to have the equipment to bring these dogs to safety, like the very large humane trap that's kind of in the image behind me, but also to care for these animals, to get them vet care, et cetera. So as people's finance have been crunched, certainly we've seen the effects of that, and it has affected our donations. But then we have other donors who stand by us and really care deeply and make a difference. Our volunteers, some of them have lost their jobs, others are working remote. Some are maybe, not in a situation where they want to be out and about in the community in unknown communities where they could be at risk. So, some of our volunteers have pulled back a little bit from going out into the community and volunteering. The other consequence that's happened in our area, and I believe it has happened in other areas of the country, is our municipal animal control agencies have scaled back on their field services work, and they're doing less of the kind of out and about. The animal control agents are not as out and about. That means that there are less animals coming off of the out of the stray population, and that means more work for us because we really haven't stopped, because we really are here for those animals. And so as a small volunteer only nonprofit, it puts a lot of burden on us when the big guys don't have as many hours out in the field and that type of thing. So we're definitely feeling the effect, but we're doing all we can and ramping up as much as we can to continue to help be there for these guys.
Cheryl Naumann here on Fire Breathing Rob. She's the president of the Arizona Humane Animal Rescue Trapping Team. Have you talked to a lot of people in a lot of humane organizations that you do work with? Are they seeing more people surrender pets due to finances? Obviously, we know how high vet bills can be. They got to pay for the food for dogs and other care items in general. Have you spoke to anybody about that as far as surrendering pets? Because I do hear a lot of stories in the news that people, since they're home and they're lonely. They don't maybe live alone, they're elderly, or maybe they're just your regular young people or middle-aged. They're getting a lot of pets, and they're taking a lot of pets in now. We're seeing that with adoption agencies too. But so what have you heard around the watering hole, I guess we could say?
Yeah, the effect of COVID on animal welfare organizations nationally has been twofold. One is there are an increased number of surrenders for sure. For sadly, some may be right reasons, some not so right reasons. One is, people who have lost their jobs, who are fearful of being able to properly care for the animal, are surrendering them. We always tell people, before surrendering a pet, seek resources. Most communities have pet food banks as well, and other low income, low cost services that you can receive during this time, because you might only be out of work for 2 months, and then things might go back to normal. So don't make a lifetime decision for that short-term response. There are people who will help you get the food and medical care your animals need. And then the second thing, though, is we are seeing people who are now working remotely who want to share their homes with a pet and want to foster or adopt, which we are very excited about. The one caveat I would say to that is you might be working from home for 3 months, and then your employer makes you go back into your day job. Don't then surrender the pet. So understand that if you're making this commitment, you don't want to have taken this dog to adopt and then break their heart 3 months ago when you give them up again. So they're not commodities. They're not meant to be short term. Now, fostering is a great solution for people that have a safe home for a pet, where an animal might just need to be fostered for 6 weeks while he's recovering from his surgery, or to help socialize her a little bit more. That's a great, kind of a temporary pet situation. So that's where you can reach out to your local rescue organizations or humane organizations to offer to temporarily foster, knowing that you might go back to work if you think it might not be a long-term solution for you.
So what advice would you give to people about that? And why do we see so many cats, I guess, in Florida and other warm weathered areas?
Yeah, believe it or not, there are large feral populations in really cold climates as well. You just don't see them because they are kind of now out and about because it's so cold. But the feral overpopulation problem is a national problem. And I think there are a couple of reasons. One is that, first of all, a lot of municipal agencies don't have as their government mandate to impound cats. The origin of a lot of animal control agencies is public safety. So when you see a stray dog running around, potentially there could be more of a kind of a safety issue, although most of them just run from you, but they're not obligated to impound them, so they don't try. Number two is people are more accepting of cats roaming around. They think they'll just be okay and figure it out. They can jump into dumpsters, which isn't really true, but it adds to the problem of nobody really taking an active stance. If you see cats, there are amazing volunteers out in every community that are feral cat or community cat caregivers that go every night at dusk, put food and water out, care for these animals, humanely trap them, and then TNR them. That means trap, neuter, return, where they trap them, they have them neutered, and then they return them. They usually cut the little tip off of their ear to symbolize that they've been surgically altered. They re-release them so they can't procreate. Right. That's great. So when you are out looking for, and you see stray cats, look and see if they have a little notch off of the top of their ear. That would mean that they're in an active colony. Somebody's caring for them, feeding them, and has already surgically altered them, which is great. You can offer to be a community cat caregiver. If you don't know who's got that dish out there, stick a note under it and say, "Hi, I see what you're doing. I'd love to help." There is a great need for more help. Certainly, some of these cats are truly feral, as in they haven't had human contact, and they won't be the cuddly cat that sits on your lap. Some of them are people's stray pets that are missing, that, ideally, if you could take them in and get them scanned for a microchip, maybe they have a home that's been a family that's been looking at them, looking for them for a long time. So it's kind of really a mixed bag. And some of them do okay, but they're also really susceptible to transmissible diseases through cat fighting and other things like that. So wherever we can get these animals off the street, get them altered surgically, et cetera, to reduce the population, the better.
Why do you believe people should get a pet, and what do they provide for that other person?
Yeah. Certainly right now in COVID, I think a lot of people are feeling a greater degree of loneliness, and Zoom videos don't just cut it, and Facebook doesn't cut it. We miss that kind of connection with people. And what we find a lot is that people that are lonely, and you can be in a house of 6 people and be lonely, or have a busy job and be lonely, that pets just bring this unconditional love to you. And just to come in, you know, after being out about for the day, and having that cat or that dog just be so excited that you're there. I'm sorry, my husband isn't that excited when I come home, you know? Nobody's jumping up and down like this. My dogs are. My cat is like, you know, crying for attention. And it just gives you that feeling that you're loved and you're appreciated. We know that pets will lower people's blood pressure. We know that it will reduce the severity of depressions, symptoms of depression and anxiety. We know that dogs will get you out of the house and get you moving and, you know, help you in terms of your physical fitness. So there's just so many benefits. And yes, there can be sadness that comes with a pet, just like losing a person. You lose a pet, it's sad. But these animals need a home. They need a loving environment. And it's just this great symbiotic relationship where you both benefit. Nothing quite like having a dog fall asleep on your lap while you watch TV at night. It's a really comforting feeling.
Agreed, 100%. Can you tell the viewers a small story of helping an animal that was in a bad place and how you did help that animal, and maybe they got adopted or their family found them?
Yeah. Oh gosh, hundreds of stories, but I'll tell you about my all-time favorite, and you can actually see video of this little dog on our website at azhartt.org, H-A-R-T-T. But her name was Bella. She was a 4-month-old golden retriever puppy who was traveling with her owner, heading from a state toward the East Coast to California. He was on a school break in college. And he and the other person in his vehicle, they were involved in a rollover accident on Interstate 40 in northern Arizona. And this young man was airlifted out and had some very serious injuries. And this puppy, 4 months old, was ejected from the car somehow. So, think about, the people are removed from the accident scene. Everybody comes in to clean up DPS and fire. They do their thing. They leave. And, then they realize, like, there's a puppy that was here. Where's the puppy? So for 13 days, we didn't even know this accident had happened. Finally, somebody said to us, contacted Hartt and said, did you hear about this accident up in Flagstaff? There's a puppy that's missing. So I went with another one of our volunteers, Beth, and we actually went to the scene where we thought the accident had occurred. We walked the freeway. This is 13 days later. Quite frankly, I was looking for paw prints to see if the dog had returned to the accident scene, which almost all dogs that are ejected in an accident scene tend to return to that spot. They tend to stay within about 1/8 of a mile around an accident scene. So I was looking for paw prints, or I was expecting I might find, something sad. Didn't see anything, couldn't figure out, where this puppy would have gone, probably maybe ran off, but again, they tend to stay close. So I found the tow truck driver that had hauled the wreckage away, went to inspect the wreckage to see if the puppy was inside somehow. No puppy there. But I showed him my map and I said, is this where the accident scene is? He goes, no, you're off by about 1/2 mile. It's at this mile marker, not this mile marker. So I went back right before dark. And I started doing a grid search along the freeway. Semis are flying by. I started just going bush by bush by bush by bush. I was there about 25 minutes just before dark. And as I was making one of my last passes, I heard a whimper. And I was filming up until that time, and I heard the whimper, and then I stopped because I was filming for the owner to show where I was searching. I heard this whimper, and I just stopped my phone and went to this bush. And here is this little puppy that was skin and bones, that her leash had been wrapped around the bush hopelessly, and she was stuck there, and she'd survived with no food or water in the snow for 13. It wasn't snowing at that time, but it had snowed about 4 days earlier. The climate had warmed up, and untangled her, scooped her up, got her to the vet. She needed a blood transfusion. She was near death. But she survived, and we were able to get her all fixed up, and she is now back with her owner and is thriving.
Can you tell the viewers what the Second Home Pet Resort is and how you got it started together with your husband?
Yeah. My husband and I founded an organization called Second Home Pet Resort, which has now been open, oh gosh, 13 years, I believe. And it's a luxury boarding facility for people when they go on vacation and their pets need a place to safely board. They can come to our pet resort. We have a salon and spa, doggy daycare. We have an outdoor water park, which is necessary in Phoenix. Lots of play yards. It's a very secure facility. For our kitties, we have kitty condos and 4-level cat penthouses and play atriums for the cat. So what we want to do is basically give families peace of mind, so that while they're at the beach or they're in the mountains or they're traveling abroad, they know their pet is also having a resort experience at Second Home Pet Resort. And it's a really special place. We can hold up to about 225 animals when it's busy. So it's a big place. And fortunately, the pet resort clients are, the most loved pets. Their families are investing in them having a great vacation themselves. So it's like two sides of the coin, right? We have the pet resort with the loved animals, and then we have Hartt, which focuses on those who have nobody advocating for them. So it's just kind of the best of both worlds.
What made you want to start? I know you've been involved with the animals for quite a long time, over 20 some odd years. But what made you want to start the Second Home Pet Resort?
So my husband and I founded Second Home Pet Resort because we could not find a place where we would feel comfortable leaving our pets to go on our own vacations. We toured other boarding kennels, the old style boarding kennels, chain link, taking them out maybe 2 times a day, sometimes not even. The staff seemed sort of disinterested in pets, and we were looking for something of a more upscale experience where our pets would have fun and actually enjoy their time. We couldn't find a place that was nice enough or that was safe enough with tall enough fences, double doors, things like that. And so we thought, you know what, I bet there are other people like us that love their pets so much they want a safe and nice place. And we don't find this anywhere, so let's start this business. So we started researching pet resorts all over the country. When we go on vacation, we would take side trips to see pet resorts, to see what we liked, what we didn't like, kept a massive list, and then finally said, it's time to do this. And so it's a 17,000 square foot facility. It's up against a mountain in the Phoenix area, and it's just exactly what we had always hoped for.
That's great. Tell the viewers, firstly, how to find and help out Hartt, and also how people can find more information about the Second Home Pet Resort too.
Absolutely. For Second Home Pet Resort, you can visit us online at second, spelled out, secondhomepetresort.com. And you can see videos of our suites, pictures, everything that you'd like to know about boarding your pet at Second Home Pet Resort. And then for Hartt, our website is azhartt.org. And on that website, you can actually see some videos of our humane captures. You can see the types of traps we use. You can learn all more about our organization. And then certainly you can choose to support our work. We have many people that choose to become monthly sustaining donors, whether it's $10 a month or $100 a month. This allows us to know that we have income coming in on a consistent basis so that we can buy the equipment we need and we can save more pets. And we couldn't do it without the support of the public. And we're very grateful for that.
Well, Cheryl, thanks so much for your time.